Atención. Refresher no se hace responsable de las expresiones vertidas en este programa. Gracias.
¿Qué es la que hay, mi gente? Bienvenidos a QueFonki'nShow. Obviamente, tengo a mi co-host favorita, aquí Arisa.
Es que soy la única.
¿Tú crees?
Tengo que ser la favorita porque si no, imagínate.
No sé. Es que hubo otra. Buste.
Mira cómo alzo la ceja.
Estoy viendo. Hubo otra.
Ay, nigga.
Lo gracioso es, hoy nos vamos a ir English mode, porque como ya ustedes saben, nuestro invitado no es de la isla, viene directamente desde los California.
Y mi English is not very good, pero I'm going to try.
Esto va a ser un super Sofía Vergara moment para Kiaritza.
Está bien. Lo importante es que nos vamos a entender.
Pero ella va a intentar. Tú vas a intentar.
Tú vas a
intentar.
Sí. Oh. Vamos a hacer bien.
Your English is much, much better than my Spanish.
Well, we're switching to English, so without any more, Richard. Hey, what's up, Rich?
Richard.
How's it going, man?
Good afternoon, or wherever it is where you are. What's afternoon?
We're afternoon, like 2. Yeah. What time is it in LA right now?
It's like 10 a.m. Yeah, 10? This is my least favorite time of year to deal with people in Puerto Rico because there's a 4-hour difference.
So we're
I can
like
handle a 3-hour difference. Excuse me?
We're like your morning coffee right now.
If I drank coffee instead, as you all know, I drink iced tea.
Oh, let's start with this questions. I always ask this question to every single guest. Are we friends?
Are we what?
Are we friends?
Are we friends? You and I?
Yes.
Yeah. From the moment that we met. It was like somebody else had invited me to Puerto Rico, and he shall remain nameless, mostly because I can't remember his last name. But anyway, he had invited me to Puerto Rico, and he and it was my first time there. Went there for a meeting on something, and while I was waiting for the meeting to happen, this other guy thought he should have to entertain me, but he couldn't for some reason. I think he didn't have the money or something like that. So it could be, right? Maybe. We know who this is. And so he said, I'm going to send a friend of mine over. And I said, that's okay. I got enough friends. I didn't really feel like I knew this guy a little bit from the phone and from the day before. And I thought, it's okay. I'm going to be stuck with somebody who's like him, as a matter of fact. So not like Fonzo.
So finally, it was like the imposed friend that had to entertain Richard Abramson for a couple.
That's right.
That's right. Here we go.
I feel the pressure.
And he thought it was worth. He thought it was worth his time, or he couldn't get out of it or something. Anyway, so I said, okay. I was staying at this hotel. We'll call it a medium-sized hotel, but the person I was going to see owned the hotel, so the price was right. So I go, okay, fine. And I'm waiting outside, and this little red car comes up. And I look inside.
Dead, by the way, it's dead. It died. My car died. It died.
Where'd you bury it? Where'd it go?
I didn't bury it. It like auto swallowed water without my permission. It swallowed water, and it's dead.
You drove it into the ocean? Is that what you're telling me?
I wish. That would be a better story, but it was like completely parked and then dead.
Damn, Fonzo.
Yeah, terrible. The worst thing ever. Wow. So it's dead. Now it's a black car.
Yo no me monto contigo.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. All right. But I remember that car. So I associate that car with you. So all of a sudden the car pulls up and I went like, oh, he looks like a pretty cool guy. This might be all right. Maybe it will be. And he had someone with him. who seemed like a nice person. We'll leave it at that. And we went out and had dinner, and we became like friends immediately. I mean, like instantaneously. And
we went to like a car show. We went to coffee.
Oh yeah, the next day he invited me to a car show, and we went because I've always been involved in cars and racing and stuff like that. And then that was a few years ago. And then over the years, he's made a couple of trips to Los Angeles. He came out for my 40th birthday party a couple years ago.
I've done a couple of projects thanks to Rich. So yeah. A couple of my good, interesting life stories are thanks to my dear friend Richard Abramson. I owe him a couple of life experiences, so therefore, I am completely grateful.
Well, and I'm grateful to know you. So whenever I'd go to Puerto Rico, which at that point was very often, Fonzo and an old friend of his.
No, this is a whole nother podcast. Yeah, I'll talk about him soon enough, but this should be like a whole other segment.
I'm scared.
No, it's just the end. It was the end of Do Action.
Okay.
Where like JJ knows because JJ was in the transition.
Do I know him?
Maybe. No, actually, I don't think so. Because when I started doing stand up, which was when I met you, he wasn't anymore. Because when I started doing stand up, I was like right off of like chemo and every single treatment, so he wasn't around anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, you always were. Yeah,
I was there. So I used to go, and we pretty much every time I went from then on, whenever I didn't have somebody else to have dinner with, we'd have dinner. We'd go out. I think there was some alcohol involved. There were certainly cigars involved.
Always cigar and whiskey. That's like always tradition.
How many times have you been in Puerto Rico?
I would say realistically, maybe 40.
Wow.
Because I used to come a lot,
no, he used to do a lot of business locally, so he used to fly a lot. But
it was like a second home.
Yeah, exactly.
How cool!
So for the people that are watching, who is Richard Abramson?
You got me.
No, for me, you're like the legendary-ish. You see how I down?
Legendary-ish, yeah.
Like, get your work and just throw it a little bit down, because I don't want you to feel so grateful, like so much, like, oh my God, I'm so godlike.
No, not really.
No. But legendary producer, not less, and entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think I'm well. First of all, the reason I went to Puerto Rico was the film business and the idea about building a motion picture studio in Puerto Rico, which is still an ongoing affair with a lot of complications that we're not going to get into today. But the bottom line is, it caused me to go there a lot, and also I enjoyed it there immensely. I think, especially in the beginning, before things got a little bit busier. Fonzo and this other friend of his, it's a whole other podcast, I guess. It certainly is an interesting one, would be an interesting one. They picked me up at the airport and
him on the podcast.
Yeah. And we just, there you go. And so we'd go out to dinner every night and have a good time. And then I'd used him on various things. In fact, just used him on something yesterday that he shot for me in Puerto Rico.
He's in the project.
Oh, you're in it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I have a big ass farmer stand.
We are red.
Big.
Oh, wow.
You're doing.
I guess so. He tricked me though. He fixed the pictures and the videos so I can't download them. So as far as I know, they're great. He says they're terrific, and I'll find out as soon as I figure out my end of it. But it's been through we did one of the times that Fonzo came to California, They shot a kind of an infomercial kind of thing for a plastic surgeon friend of mine. And yes, I give everyone advice. If you're going to have a doctor that's a friend, make him a plastic surgeon. Then you end up looking like me. And even though Fonzo thinks I'm 25, I'm 105. And that's how good this plastic surgeon is.
You're not 25? You've been lying to me all this time.
Well, I was 25 when I met you. It's been a few years.
Well,
so,
Richard, what did you study to?
Did you study?
Exactly.
What did you study? Did you become like? How did you study to become a producer, or did you just like wing it?
I know you go.
Yeah. No,
doing this.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Well, because the phone comes in on my thing. Anyway, but what was I talking about? Oh, the just plastic surgery in general. So, and for a long time, it's been a little bit the last couple of years because I don't go to Puerto Rico as much. But every time I do, I'm with Fonzo, and he's remained a good friend, and we've helped each other out a lot over the years. I saw him through the difficult years. I didn't see him through, but I was around and I was helping when he had his successful. Excuse me.
You actually came and visited through one of my rounds of chemo.
Exactly. Yeah, I did that. We went out to his house to meet his family, a lovely family. They seem to don't like him very much, but they were nice to me.
I don't even like myself very much, so
I
that's
don't
okay.
even like him.
That's completely normal.
But it was like, and it was raining, and I took a guy who's now my business partner, Richard Hargett, out there, and he goes, "I like Fonzo, but it's raining so hard, I can't even see the road." And we went out and we visited him at his house, and his parents were very lovely. But it was clear that Fonzo was not happy living at home and recuperating there, other than the fact that people were waiting on him hand and foot. And he was very demanding. I'm telling you, it's a little bit embarrassing, to be quite honest. But everybody, he played what we call the C card. And
you
he got all kinds of sympathy. Yeah, exactly. So it worked out good for him. And look how healthy he looks.
Yeah. I'm getting fat. This quarantine.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything.
No, I'm aware. I'm getting fat because I'm not doing completely.
You're fat but healthy.
Yeah,
that's the important thing here.
Yeah. I've just been so busy and I don't have time for myself so much. But yeah, I need to do it.
Apparently, you have time to eat.
There's always time to eat. Always time to eat. Always. If you're not eating, you're dying.
You have to make time.
You're not eating, you're dying.
You have to make time for you and go to the gym.
No, but yeah. Rich, this is a good question. We've already talked about this, but how did you get the big Pee-wee's Big Adventure movie going?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, that whole project is like super epic.
I want to know everything.
Just because of the fact that you got Tim Burton and Danny Elfman under the mantle to make that film.
Yeah, that was a great experience. I mean, I'll tell you, it's actually a wonderful story because we got to fill an hour, right? And
we can talk all you.
And some of the story, well, we got to fill an hour, and we some of the stories that I'm famous for, they're probably not that politically correct. So, but this particular
I don't think we're that PC here, so we're cool. We're actually trying to get canceled. I mean, it's about cancel o'clock.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
You're not getting canceled. Well, you're not getting talked about.
We'll get into that when you're bored with us, I'm telling. But in answer to that question, a long time ago, I had a marketing company, and we were marketing films, and we were marketing a film. I was very young at the time. I was barely out of middle school, but I was kind of a child prodigy, and so I was working. My parents were very poor, and they disowned me, so I had to work when I was like 10 years old, and I became a marketing guru for motion picture studios. I might have been a little bit older than 10. I can't remember. You get older, you can't remember anything. Anyway, so I was working on this picture that Steve Martin did called Man with Two Brains, and it was premiering. It wasn't premiering. We did test screenings for it in Denver, Colorado. So we flew to Denver, Colorado. My partner in the marketing business was kind of a genius guy named William McEwen, who actually died a few weeks ago. But he had discovered Steve Martin, and that's why we were there. That's why we got that job, and we had a special marketing company. So we go to Denver, and we have a successful screening of The Man with Two Brains, which wasn't that successful a film, but it was a lovely film. I really liked it. Anyway, we go to leave, and we go out to the airport, and a snowstorm hits Denver like you would never believe. Just snowing and snowing and snowing. We get out to the airport, all the flights are canceled. You can't go anywhere, with the exception of the Warner Brothers jet that was there that I tried to force myself on, and it flew away into the distance. This will be part of the story later. So we actually had to go back to the hotel where we were staying, and I never check out of hotels just in case I have to go back.
Really?
Situations like this. So I never, because you give them your credit card and eventually they pay for it. This particular case, Warner Brothers paid for it. And for some reason, they had given us, myself and my partner, two big giant suites, one for each of us. He was there with his wife. And so we go back and go, okay, fine. And I tried to get the Warner Brothers plane sent back for us, but it didn't come back. It was kind of like we were stuck there. So we were there one day, and we thought, still on Warner Brothers tab, we can't go out to eat because the weather's so bad, all the restaurants are closed, but obviously we had room service. So we started ordering, I don't know, we get together for lunch, we'd order 150 shrimp. And then we found out that the hotel chef was an ice sculpture guy.
Because 40 is not enough. We need 150.
Yeah, exactly. And we ordered an ice sculpture with every meal.
All kinds of fat.
You see the audacity.
So
I need
nobody. That was on day one. On day two, we were ordering 3 meals for everybody, and there was only 3 of us. So it was like, and we didn't even like shrimp, but we kept ordering it. Because I'm getting more and more pissed off because the plane didn't come back and they didn't seem to care. They flew off to San Diego, where obviously it wasn't going to be snowing, and they did another test screening, but we're stuck in there. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. We'd go to the airport. The limo would take us out there. We'd walk in. This was a long time ago, before it was easy to find out what was going on with flights. It was here. You had a call where the lines were busy, so we'd go out there and think we could get ourselves on. Never could. Probably around the 4th day, it's late at night, and my partner Bill McEwen goes, "Hey, there's something you ought to see. There's a guy coming on David Letterman. His name's Pee Wee Herman, and he's going to be on tonight. They just promoted it. Come on over to my suite." And I said, "Okay, order some more liquor."
Around the same time that Mr. Bean was popping on TV.
Same time to what?
That like Mr. Beans did the same thing, because for me, Mr. Beans and Pee Wee Herman are go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Just one in the United States and the other in UK.
You know something? No one's ever said that to me, and that's the truth. No one's ever said that to me. In fact, you've never said it to me.
No. But it's something that I've been completely aware, because I'm a fan of both of them. I'm a big fan of Pee Wee and a big fan of Mr. Bean.
I can't.
Because they're so theoretic. They're so very theoretical, like in every single big move that they've done, and I mean.
And now that you said that, como es que ahora que lo dice?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same.
They're not the same, because one's like a big kid, and the other one is like a mime. But their comedy is like very Chaplin-ish. So I think they go hand in hand. Like they're a parallel.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, people did used to compare Pee Wee to Buster Keaton in a way, who was kind of a lot like Charlie Chaplin, if you look at the history movies. But there's a lot of that in him. Anyway, to continue the story a little bit. So we're watching him, and he comes on David Letterman, and I'd heard a little bit about him because he had a brief fling of publicity when he did what later became Pee Wee's Playhouse on CBS later on. He was doing a version of that on stage at a club here called the Roxy. He started at the Improv, moved to the Roxy, and I saw it. I wasn't interested, didn't care, so I knew of him. And then this guy Bill McEwen looked at me and said, "I have Steve Martin," because he was Steve Martin's manager. And he said, "You need somebody. You need a Steve Martin." I said, "I'll take Steve Martin if you're going to give him up." He goes, "No, but you're going to like this guy." Now, there couldn't be anybody more different than Pee Wee Herman and Steve Martin, but they shared the same agent and they shared the same fan in Bill McEwen and also in myself after I started looking at it. So we're looking at it and I'm going like, this is really cool. Now, this wouldn't have happened if we didn't get snowed in. It wouldn't have. And the chances are my life would have been completely different. So we got snowed in. Finally, they, were able to get out. We'd had it. We'd had enough. I remember sitting on the plane. At those times, you didn't have boarding. Like I said, I'm 104. In those times, didn't have boarding passes. They just wrote something on the back of a ticket envelope. They actually had tickets, and so they wrote it and they sat there. And then when we got on the plane, the flight attendant said, went on the loudspeaker and said, would Richard Abramson and William McEwen and Alice McEwen, his wife, please come to the front of the plane? And I looked at them and I said, don't fucking move. Don't move. That's a trick. Once we get out of our seats, they're going to give them to somebody else. And sure enough, they tried. And we just sat there. And they said, but you weren't supposed to be on this plane. I said, yeah, we were. It was just a few days ago. And they gave up and the plane flew and we went back. And then we started, then I met Pee Wee and we came up with a plan for him. And the plan was, and this is something that I had no idea what I'm doing. So I basically pulled this out of my ass, but it turned out to be true. And I said, this is what we're going to do. You've got David Letterman. You're going to go out on a stand-up tour. We're going to make a development
tour like around the same time that like Robin Williams and all these people were doing like the Comedy Store and everything like that.
If you're talking about the Robin Williams encounter, yeah. Well, first of all, comics. If Robin Williams were alive today, I don't know if he'd be doing it, but even the big time comics still do when they can. This one closed for a year to go to the comedy clubs and do stuff. So it was a little bit after Robin Williams' time, like 2 or 3 years later. We're talking about this whole thing happened in, oh my God, 1983.
Okay.
So when you guys weren't even born, which is something that pisses me off to this day.
Planned to get born. Okay.
Well,
almost.
Well,
almost.
I think Pee Wee's Big Adventure came out when I was born. I think so.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. I'll make a note of that. Hold on. Okay. Good. Anyway, I laid out this plan that said you continue with Letterman. You're going to do stand up. We're going to get the agency to book you into different things. We're going to make a development deal. We'll go out and do stuff on the road, and you'll be writing your movie at the same time. We'll make the movie. And he goes, well, I want to do a kid show based on what I did on stage. And I said, we'll do the movie first, then we'll do the kid show. And really, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think about this all the time. I laid it out not knowing anything about what I was doing. I gave timelines, which was kind of stupid because if you give an artist a timeline, nothing happens as quickly as it's supposed to. It never does. But this one did. And everything went according to plan. And we went on this round the country tour, all sold out. We started, and I'd never seen him live. I'd only seen him, David Letterman, and he made some appearances on other shows. And he'd been in a Cheech and Chong movie. I think he was in Up in Smoke, I'm pretty sure. So, which is, of course, the quintessential Cheech and Chong movie for movie historians, for a lot of reasons. Anyway, so we started this tour, and we started at a college, I remember, up in Seattle, Portland area, one of those places. And there were like thousands of people. And I go like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And I saw him on stage, and he had done this improvisational act for like 2 hours on stage where he would tell jokes, pull props out of his hat, not out of his hat, out of a trunk. He'd do all this other stuff. What did that mean? What does this mean?
2 hours.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good. Okay. Because things mean different things in different places. Here, this means something else.
Like two up your ass?
Nah, it's a little sexist. It's a little sexist. Anyway. So then we started this cross-country tour. We went to New York and played at a famous club called Caroline's. And then we kept building up. And along the same time, we made a deal with Warner Brothers. And this relates to the first story that I told. The deal, there was a guy who was the president of Warner Brothers, and he basically got fired. This is the same guy that was in charge of the plane that left me in Denver, by the way, just coincidentally, right? So he was, you know, on the he was the president of production of Warner Brothers, and he got fired, and they gave him what they call a kind of a gardening deal in England, but they gave him a you know, development deal, and they gave him a nice little Adobe house to work in on the Warner Brothers lot. And so we knew him and we met with him, and I forgave him for leaving me in Denver, but pointed out how this might work to his advantage. And he came on as a co-producer, and therefore he was able to get the picture greenlit at Warner Brothers. So what happened was, I was able to get the development deal. So we got the development deal, and during the week, Pee Wee, whose name is Paul Rubens, and Phil Hartman, who of course was famous, became very famous afterwards. Whole other story. Phil was like a very close friend of mine. And for your listeners that wouldn't know, Phil was did a couple of TV series, but he started on Saturday. He started with the Groundlings with Pee Wee, and actually played a character in Pee Wee's Playhouse, and even did it the first year that we aired the show. But I forgot. Oh, so Phil Hartman and a guy by the name of Mike Varhall and Paul were writing the script, and I got them this office, and every day I would just bring them weed. Every day, that was my job. Bring them weed. So
juice.
Yeah, and I think that's why Pee Wee's Big Adventure is so widely revered to this day. So I think because it was written that way, it was written that way. Under those kind of influences. And if I was late, they'd just be sitting there all being grumpy. But those were the days, you know. Now, of course, so that's this way in Puerto Rico, guys. But in California, there's as many marijuana stores as there is drugs, as there is liquor stores almost. So
yeah, here's the gray zone already. So like, it's like, that's fine. People don't.
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's big business out here. But in any event, and that's what we did. And we started going around, and we ended up the tour. The last 2 dates that I had them booked for the tour was Carnegie Hall in New York City. Why Carnegie Hall? Because I wanted people to say, why Carnegie Hall? Why would a silly guy, kind of a man adult, but you know, but people knew Pee Wee Herman, why would he be playing Carnegie Hall? And the reason he was playing Carnegie Hall was that was the story. I wanted that story in the newspaper because it seems so incongruous. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. You're supposed to be a musician. Suddenly he's there. So that was a big thing. And we were almost done with the script. 2 weeks later, did the Universal Amphitheater here in Los Angeles, invited everybody in Hollywood. Giant success. Every single show was sold out. And we
this was before the whole Pee Wee's Big Adventure, right?
Yeah. This was Pee Wee's Big. This was the writing of Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And then the two people that ran Warner Brothers at that time came backstage afterwards. I did a kind of a arrogant asshole thing and made him. I thought we had him because the audience was going crazy. And I mean, the whole idea was you hand them a script right after they see the audience go crazy. And I had 2 scripts for them, but I made them wait outside for like 5 minutes because they were 2 of the most important people in Hollywood, and I wasn't, but I wanted to be for those 5 minutes. Then we let them into the dressing room, and we talked, and we met, and we gave them the script. And literally 2 or 3 days later, the movie was greenlit for the princely sum of $3 million, which in today's dollars still isn't very much money.
No, not very much.
Not very much.
And the cool thing is that if I'm not mistaken, this was like the big Tim Burton film at the time, just because of the fact that he was doing short films way before even Big Adventure.
Well, that's right. He was doing short films, and he was being whispered about in Hollywood. And
he was
we had hired
at the time, right? That's why, like, the whole lady and the whole, like, the scene in the semi truck. That's why, like, it was claymation. I think he was working on something like that, right before. I could be wrong.
He was interested in claymation, and he was working on something in claymation, just doing little short things. He had a job at Disney, and Disney thought he was talented, but they didn't know what to do with him. So I was invited to a screening when we were looking for a director. I was invited to a screening of a film he did called Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie, yeah.
Frankenweenie, and I couldn't get in. It was being held at 20th Century Fox, and I went over there, and they said, no, it's sold out. You can't get in. So I went, okay, because I didn't know how good he was. So I forgot about it for 3 weeks. we hired another director. I was very unhappy. Pee Wee was very unhappy. The other producer was just happy to have a film made so he could get paid. But we really stuck to our guns. And I said, this is not the right guy for this. But at that point, he wasn't well known and nobody wanted to direct it. Pee Wee made a list Paul made a list of people that he wanted to direct it, and included people like Francis Ford Coppola and Paul Newman. I mean, it didn't make any sense. Yeah, and that probably wasn't going to work. So,
but it worked in his favor because it ended up being like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that has this whole timeline that's like a kids show, but it has like that dark undertone, the backbone of the whole production, which made it so interesting and eerie for a kid.
I think you're right, because Tim Burton does have this dark cloud. So anyway, there was a woman at Warner Brothers who was part of the development team. Her name was Lisa Henson. Lisa Henson was the famous Jim Henson's daughter. Yeah. In fact, Lisa is now running that company. This is many years later, obviously. And she called me up and said, I know you're not happy. Why don't you take another look at Tim Burton? And I said, okay. And I went to Paul and I said, we're going to look at that Tim Burton film that people are talking about. And we went over to Disney and they had a special screening for Paul and myself. And we just sat there, and like 5 minutes into the thing, 2 minutes into the thing, 1 minute into the thing, we looked at each other and we found our guy. We knew this was the guy. Nobody knew who he was. And now he has a slightly different version of what happened that he was using on a stage show last year that I can get to later. But I know what happened because it's not vastly different. He actually gives me more credit than I deserve. And since I rarely get the credit that I deserve, I'm willing to take. So,
of course, anytime that comes out of the kid's mouth, like, okay, I'll take that. Yeah. No,
I'll take that.
I'll take that. Yeah. Sorry.
So the way you're right.
It has a question. Like, let's see. Go, Sofia Vergara moment. Go.
Let me say it in Spanish.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Tim Burton era dark desde el principio.
Yeah. The question she asked is that if he was dark, like his style was dark since the first time he made movies, Tim Burton. And I think yes.
You were a little distorted there at the beginning, Fonzo, in your translation.
My question was, did Tim Burton's style was always dark?
It was always dark. FonKi'n was dark. There were darker scenes in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, dream sequences that were so dark that it just wasn't right for the movie. And he was disappointed, but again, he wasn't Tim Burton then. He was a younger version of Tim Burton. He came in, by the way, after we came back from that screening, I made a couple of phone calls, and to my recollection, he showed up like a couple hours later, and we put him in a room and let him read the script. And he goes, this is really interesting. I could do a lot with this. But he was like, you could look at him and go like, this is the guy. You saw FonKi'n, and you looked at him. His hair was like all over the place. It still is. But he was just charismatic. He was 27 years old, and he was incredibly charismatic. And we were just like almost crying that we had found somebody that was great. And he started working, and he was great. I mean, so people go like, you discovered Tim Burton. No, I didn't discover Tim Burton. I was told about Tim Burton, and yes, we gave him his first movie, but 3 weeks later, somebody else would have given him his first movie. So I don't take credit for that. I mean, I don't. But he was great, and everybody knows what happened to him after that. But
and you also got to work with Elfman, like Danny Elfman.
Well, the Danny Elfman thing.
The soundtrack whore. I love a good soundtrack in movies. You already know this because we went.
Oh, I know this.
Williams. But for me, like the soundtrack is the part of the movie that transports you into that whole vibe and gives you like the whole feel of what the movie's gonna be. So having a good music score is like key. And
he had never done one before, Fonzo.
What?
He had never done one. He had never done a movie score before. What he had done was, he was in Mystic. We got a slight delay. He was in Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, and that was his band. And then it became Oingo Boingo. And when I got married for the first time, which actually was the last time, the and I'm not still married, but so they Oingo Boingo was we were real fans of them. We just Maria, my ex-wife, and I. Excuse me.
What a weird name for a band.
Oh, Oingo Boingo, yeah. It was even weirder when it was Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo. So when Maria and I decided to get married, we decided to hire Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo to play at the wedding. And Danny Elfman, who was the leader of the band, said, we don't play at weddings. But there was going to be a lot of show business people there. And we told him it would be good for him in the long run. And of course, it turned out to be, because it turned out as we were making the movie that Tim Burton was also a fan of Danny Elfman and Oingo Boingo. And somehow we all saw in him the ability to be able to become a film composer, even though he'd never done it before. I really don't know why we were able to make that leap of faith, because, well, the $3 million movie had turned into a $6 million movie by the time we got done shooting it, and we got to a point where we wanted to do, put the music on. And at that point, a $6 million movie or a $3 million movie or a low budget movie was not entitled to, budget wise, a full orchestra. But Danny Elfman insisted on that as part of the deal. And we were able to, at that point, the studio had seen enough of the film to know that they actually had something there more than just taking a shot, right? I mean, it always was a big surprise to them how good the film was and how well it performed. But then we got Danny Elfman, and when we were doing interviews for the movie, how'd you find Danny Elfman? And I told about the wedding thing, and he called me up and he goes like, don't bring up the wedding thing anymore. Just say you saw me someplace and you were a fan, and stop with the wedding thing. Okay, fine. I said, but I didn't get you to do. Okay. But that's how I knew you, and that's how you got the job. I said, it's an interesting story you can tell 30 years from now. Well, now it's 30 years from now, and I'm telling you, so it's good. So he did play at the wedding, and he was great. And then he went on to a great career, both with Tim Burton and with other people, and he's still one of the highest paid movie composers, as far as I know.
And you guys got to have that Back to the Future vibe. You got like the epic bicycle that every kid wanted, plus like the soundtrack, like the whole Back to the Future. And I also say that's like a key thing, to have that epic bicycle scene where it goes flying and like making fun of ET moment and everything. I mean, that's great.
Interestingly enough, the film is still very well watched. Paul took it on tour last year before the pandemic hit, and was getting up to $300 a ticket at big theaters, not movie theaters, but like 5,000 seat places where people would pay, and they could go for $50 or $300 if they wanted to meet him. Bad news is he charged me $300 to meet him, and I didn't like that. No, he didn't. And there was a lot of people there, and he did a thing, but this was sold out until the pandemic. This was sold out all across the country. He had done, I think he was doing like 30 shows. They were all they weren't in movie theaters. They were very large kind of performing theaters, 5,000, 6,000 seats. And so that was good. And that was just last year. Then he had to stop in the middle. Strangely enough, last night, they have these things called cemetery screenings here in Los Angeles. But because you can't, it was like a cemetery. And
they always do that on St. Valentine's Day too, right? There's like a big thing in watching like old movies in like the cemetery.
Really?
In LA? Yeah, I think so. Right?
Where?
Yeah, it could be. But they usually have a summer thing. They have a summer thing, and every summer they would do Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it'd be like 5,000 people there. But last night they had to do it at a drive-in theater at another place called the Greek Theater, and I was going to go, but they sent me the rules in the pandemic. You have to stay in your car. You can't get out unless you flash your lights to go to the bathroom, and then somebody will take you to the bathroom and back. You can't leave your car. You can't bring food. You can't drink. You can't smoke weed. You can't put your top down on your car. You can't turn on your car. You can't turn off your car. And I said, too many rules, and
I'm out.
I'm out. And it's.
I can't remember.
Like, I mean, the interesting thing about being in a drive-in is that's the way the real movie ends. is at a drive-in movie theater, which was kind of the last drive-in movie theater. We did it right before they closed the last drive-in movie theater in Los Angeles. But yeah, look, that thing was a great thing. It'll be the best thing I think I've ever been involved in. I don't know if you know this, Fonzo, but I think I told you, but while we were doing that tour that I was talking about earlier, I decided I was feeling like I was a really good manager, but I also thought I was a good creative guy. And what I wanted to do was get my creative hand in somehow. And I wasn't doing that. I was feeling frustrated. So I came up with the idea of taping one of his stand-up shows just for posterity. And we thought it would be valuable sometime. And so we did. We went to Chicago. We went to a club called Park West, and we shot 4 two-hour shows. And I directed it. I'm not really a director. So I isolated every camera into its own tape machine, and we ended up with 48 hours, 50 hours of tape. And the idea was to finish it and put it out, sell it to somebody, put it out, release it on home. Yeah, exactly. Release it on home video. We don't have home video anymore. So, but those were the old days. Release it on home video and make some money. The tapes were there. And then the film was so successful that at the premiere of the film, which was done at the Chinese theater, that's what I want. Growing up, I wanted a film to premiere at the Chinese theater. That was, if you're a movie maker,
themselves in the, I think
exactly. Yeah, the heavyweight thing. And Warner Brothers was okay with that. And by that time, they knew they had a hit on their hands. And so they were willing to go for the premiere. I convinced MTV to cover it live, which is something they never did before or actually since. So there was a live coverage of the premiere, footage of which Pee Wee used on his little tour. And so it was, we had a great night. And then while I was up there, 2 executives from CBS approached me who had gotten into the premiere, and they were 2 people in charge of daytime programming at CBS. And they said, "We want to do a kid show with you guys. Are you interested?" And I said, "Interested. That's what we wanted to do." That was part of the plan. That was the missing element. That was the very last thing that I told them we would accomplish. I didn't think it would be that quick. And she goes, I go, "But we really are not in the pilot business. We can go off and make another movie." I mean, she goes, "No, if we like the idea, oh no," they knew about Pee Wee's Playhouse because there'd been a special on HBO before I got involved, actually. And so, but it didn't go anywhere. I mean, it didn't go anywhere with his career. So when we found him, he wasn't doing well. But in any event, we went, and I got off the subject. But anyway, so we're in Chicago, and we filmed this thing on stage. Again, I wasn't a director. I'm not a live director. I didn't want to hire somebody else to direct it. I knew the show real well. So so that's where I was going. So we found it. We said we're going to finish it right away. But then we started doing the movie, so we put it aside. Then we got done with the movie, and we started to edit a little bit, and then we had to start the TV show. We had to start writing it, which was done under the same system and in the same place as they wrote the first movie, and basically the same writers without Phil Hartman, but some other people. And then we went to New York and did that, and this thing kept getting put off and put off and put off and put off. And after the first couple of years of Pee Wee's Playhouse, Paul decided that he didn't need me anymore. And so it was a little bit of an acrimonious dissolution of our relationship, which was unfortunate. But I had the tapes, and I kept them. And every few years, I'd contact him. There was a lot of legal issues and stuff, but it all got resolved. And then I still wanted to finish this thing for years. 10 years go by, 20 years go by. I'm not getting any younger. I might look younger, but I'm not getting any younger. And so I kept going. In 2009, I said, "Let's do it. Come on, let's do it." He goes, "Okay, I'm interested." So I took the videotapes, which were now 100 years old, and you actually bake them. This was a different world, right? Because the magnetic tapes, but high, relatively high resolution. It was before HD, but I had stored them incorrectly, and they were waterlogged. Took them to a place, had everything reconstituted and digitized. And then I said to Paul, "Let's go." And he goes, "I'm not in the mood right now." 5 years later, said it again. He goes, "I'm still not in the mood." Finally, when the pandemic hit, I said, "I'm doing this now." And I put together, I'll send it to you, Fonzo. I put together a 22-minute kind of teaser from the show. And we're just working out the legalities now, because there was a couple things that were that needed to be buttoned up, but we still had all the releases from the people in the audience. It's going to be fantastic, and hopefully we're going to sell it in the next few weeks, and it'll be on someplace, because it's a great time to sell things, because the streaming business is very hot. So I'm doing a full circle and getting right back into the Pee Wee business, at least for a little while, in addition to what else I'm doing now.
Yeah, I don't think that Paul's last movie did too well. I mean, it was cool and all, but I don't think it was as epic as Big Adventure and Playhouse. It wasn't that good. The one they did at Netflix.
The one they did at Netflix was kind of a updated version of, to be honest, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, because a second film had been done that I became the executive producer of, but didn't have much to do with. By that time, my thing with Pee Wee was over. There was a film at Paramount called Pee Wee's Big Top Pee Wee. There's a big in everything. Big Top Pee Wee. Big Top Pee Wee wasn't directed by Tim Burton, wasn't written by the same writers, and didn't do well. And so that was the end of his movie career for a while. Then later on, you're right, Fonzo, he made something for Netflix. But if you look at the Netflix movie and you put it up against the Pee Wee's Big Adventure, they both start the same way. Breakfast and that, and he goes out on an adventure. Yeah. So, and that movie was made for $30 million, including a lot of work in special effects to ensure that
like moving props go like. I don't know how to explain it, but they had like a ton of random props breaking in for transitions and stuff like that. That it's like, okay, yeah.
I didn't get paid for that movie, so only watched it once. So it was that was that. But I'm glad he did it. And the Pee Wee's Playhouse resides now on HBO Max. Pee Wee's Big Adventure resides on HBO Max. Like I say, there was a screening last night. I think it was close to sold out because they said there was only a few tickets left at the a day or two before. So he's still relevant, and it's a big part of my life.
He had a ongoing role on Gotham too, and his role is actually pretty cool. Yeah, because he was in Tim Burton's and he was like Bruce Wayne's dad, Penguin's dad. He was the Penguin's dad, and
he was also in Blow, by the way.
He ended up in Gotham, just like for the whole full circle. Yeah, that was like cool to see. Yeah, and
he's a good actor. I mean, he's a good actor. If you watch him in Blow with Johnny Depp, he's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
and he was on Murphy Brown for a while, so he stayed relevant. He can get on any talk show he wants whenever he wants to do it, and I hope we can get this thing finished and out there.
Yeah, he's just a very talented actor. Yeah, but after during that show, like with him, you won your big award.
Yeah, well, it did win 23 Emmys over a period of time, and over a period of 3 or 4 years. So it's a well-respected show, and kids of a certain age, and unfortunately, the age keeps going up. So less and less people remember. But I know how old you are, Fonzo. So I don't know if but Pee Wee's Playhouse came out about 34 years ago. And so kids that were 2 then are now a little bit older, but they still remember Pee Wee's Playhouse and they like it. I wanted to put it on late night because it had a lot of double entendre stuff in there. So I said to CBS, "You got nothing on Friday night. Why don't you use our show and shore up your late night thing, because it'll be seen by the college kids," which actually made Pee Wee famous by watching David Letterman, and the next morning it'll be shown to little kids. I think at the end and then they thought about it, then they said they couldn't do it, they didn't want to do it. They had made a deal with Dick Clark on something. I don't know, whatever the excuse was, they didn't do it. But it would have been a great idea. I think it would have been great for people to be sitting around stoned at 12:30 at night and watching it.
No one's doing like physical comedy just like Pee Wee does. Yeah. I mean, it's a good moment, and a lot of stand-up comedians are like moving away from their normal stand-up vibes, and that's actually some good nuance to have, because like you have Bert Kreischer doing like in LA doing the whole carpool carpool stand-up.
Carpool karaoke?
No, he's not doing karaoke. He's doing like stand-ups, like drive-through.
Oh, drive-in stuff. Oh yeah, I didn't know what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
Like my whole head is like.
Well, Dave Chappelle's been doing that. A lot of people have been doing it. I mean, just comedy's taken a real hit because if you're heavily into the comedy business, you really need the comedy clubs.
And they're moving. They're leaving LA now. That's another subject that I want to talk to you about. Like a lot of these big people are leaving LA, but you're holding castle.
Well, everybody says people are leaving LA. I don't know anybody that's leaving LA, but and you can't tell by the traffic.
It's still,
yeah. Well, first of all, LA is becoming a very expensive place to live, and so that hurt people. I don't know. The last year has been difficult for everybody, as you well know. It's nobody. You can't really complain about it because everybody's in the same boat. And we all feel different. I'm happy at the moment because I'm doubly vaccinated. See, when you're 104, you get the vaccine very first in line, and so I feel pretty good now. But I was, like everybody, I was scared for a while.
But yeah, when we also got like big influencers moving to Puerto Rico. Did you hear about that?
Really?
We got Logan. We got Logan, and apparently Jimmy Fallon has something in Dorado too.
Yeah.
Tyga, I think he also has a house in Dorado. There's a couple of big time influencers.
I wasn't aware of that. Is that for the tax reasons? Probably.
Yep, probably.
Which I hear they're tightening up on now.
They kind of should, but I mean, I hate the whole government type of thing.
What's that mean?
I rarely.
You an anarchist? Are you an anarchist?
I hate politics. I hate politics because it's just like it's not logical. Not logical. The things and like the whole LA. How do you say that some businesses are essential and some not? Like, why is Walgreens a essential business, but your mom and pop shop is not? I mean, not logical.
No, everybody had to make it up as they went along, and then they had to try to adjust for it. To me, I sent this around when the pandemic first happened and everything was closed, and my tagline was, "I wish, in retrospect, I wish that I had developed better hobbies than just going out to dinner." That was it for me. I had no other hobbies.
My life to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. Are you guys?
A lot of people had new hobbies during the pandemic. Did you get a hobby?
No.
No?
Eating and sleeping.
You see? I picked up podcasting.
Wow.
There you go.
So yeah, it worked out a little bit in my favor because we were all locked up. So
I'm doing the same.
I know. That's why I dragged you into this.
Yay!
You can say that your hobby.
Oh, and I had the earbuds turned way off. Thank you.
Now you're dead.
Well, that leads it. As Fonzo knows, because he did something on this for me yesterday. The pandemic has also been kind of lucky for me because when I couldn't do what I really wanted to do, I joined a company that's in the PPE business, and on a consumer basis, we're concentrating on masks, which we're about to unleash on the public around the world, really, because there's going to be a mass market for a long time. And Fonzo's seen them, and they're really cool masks. They're totally breathable, blah, 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 all this other stuff. But that's been taking up my time the last few months, which was developing with my partners, a mask that would be breathable and also have heavily filtration. And there it is now.
It's very, very comfortable.
I got it.
I got one and I love it.
I got it right here.
Yeah. No, it's for your many listeners, if they go to impactair.com, they will be able to get these beginning this week. We signed up. We're doing an influencer thing. We're doing a late night TV thing. We're doing all kinds of stuff. But we really feel we know this for a fact, and it sounds like a commercial, and maybe it should be, but you can't find a better mask than this. And you can't even find anything that's really equal to this, because it uses nanotechnology, especially woven fabric, that lets you breathe, lets oxygen in and out. Thank you very much. And but keeps the virus out.
Yep.
Yeah, especially if you're training or doing anything active, it helps a lot. You can breathe correctly.
And it's a neutral color.
It's going to come
like neutral color, but he has a few colorways coming out, right?
Oh.
No, we're doing something. We figured out. I haven't sent them to Fonzie yet. We figured out that we can use something called color sublimation, and we can do anything we want. So the Mexican army wanted a mask that would match their uniform, which was a camouflage, but isn't like this is strange. Every country has a different style of camouflage. There's even a website you can go and find out what camouflages different countries and download the pattern. But in Mexico, the Mexican army uses kind of black, white, gray. So we learned that we could do that. So we can do anything with a mask as long as we can make enough of them. They basically come in two colors, because the fabric is very expensive. The masks aren't expensive, but the fabric's expensive that goes into the mask, because it's really a filter built into the mask. The whole mask becomes a filter, and it covers your face. And you got to admit, Fonzie, you must have been surprised when you got them. They are so cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're really comfortable too. Like they hold like really close to your face, which is a good thing.
The best thing is that I can breathe.
You can breathe, and that's it. That's it. So our tagline is kind of at the moment, if you hate masks, because of course we know everybody hates masks. If you hate masks, we got you covered, and we've got the science behind it. And hopefully, I can market it with my partners adequately to make a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
But also help a lot of people. The interesting thing about this mask, I don't want to go on and on about it. This is a mask that people will wear. People here wear masks all the time, but a lot of the time it's done around their chin because they can't talk or they can't breathe. And I'm sure that'll be evident if I look at what Fonzo shot yesterday. Was supposed to be.
So if you want to breathe, this is your mask.
I like how you're running your own laugh machine there, Fonzo. That's very good.
Yeah, the whole dead kid. It's like old sound cues.
Oh. So are you guys?
It has to be dead, like the whole Friends and sitcom audience that they usually have. The dead audience, probably.
There you go. There you go. Are you guys? They finally opened up restaurants here to eat outside, so I'm back in business. The good news about that is it doesn't rain here, so and it doesn't get real cold. So you can it doesn't get real. It definitely doesn't get cold in Puerto Rico.
Nope.
In fact,
always.
The hottest days and most uncomfortable days of my life were. Remember that time I went to that birthday party and you had to come and rescue me?
Yeah. Who has an upscale birthday party outside? No. Why? Everybody dressed fancy in the open? No. Everybody's gonna get sweaty. It's not a good time. Not a good time. I'm sorry.
It was completely sweaty, and you knew that. No one used the bathroom. That's how they were drinking like fish. Fish even drink, but they were drinking like fish, and nobody was going to the bathroom. But everybody's shirt was soaked. It was a terrible night. But
switching to another big project that you have, you got to work with the legendary bass player in Kiss, right? Gene Simmons.
Oh, Gene Simmons. Oh, yes. I forgot about that. No, I didn't forget about that.
TV show, his reality show.
Yes, I played myself, which was really difficult on Gene Simmons' Family Jewels for several years, and it was fun. It pissed off. I have a lot of actor friends here. It pissed off all my actor friends And if I had known you during those times, it would have pissed you off, Fonzo, because I was working as an actor and you weren't. Okay, not you, but no, you weren't even born then.
Friends get work.
No,
I'm
you
not
weren't.
Like snarky actor.
No. It's just I'm saying my actor friends here were going like, we're going to auditions. You're not even an actor. You don't deserve to be on a TV show. That's what I got, really. I go like, but it's a reality show. But it's not true. None of it's true. So you are acting. No, I'm acting the way I'm not acting. I'm just being myself. I'm sorry. I don't get paid very much. I don't get paid anything. That doesn't matter. It didn't matter to them.
Yeah, but that was one of the biggest reality show. Like that one, the Osbournes, and what I think another one was like also as big as that's Jim Simmons' Family Jewels. There were a couple.
Well, Gene Simmons' Family. Yeah. I mean, it led into other things later on with the Kardashians. They really made something out of it, obviously, although they're stopping now. But no, the Osbournes came out first and only ran for 2 years. And I think A&E was looking for something like the Osbournes, so they thought they'd find somebody, because Gene's an interesting character. And we ran for 7 years. That's not bad.
And the Kiss fans are crazy. They're like diehard. Kiss it's like
I want to see it again.
It's like
I want to see it again.
No, it's like comic book culture almost. Kiss fans are almost as big as Marvel fans and DC fans.
Yes.
Like they have merch everywhere. Like
These
you name it, they have merch on it.
Oh, they do. They do. In fact, Gene used to have this thing.
Seats, toilet paper.
Well, how about this? This was Gene's famous joke. He'd hold up something. We have Kiss condoms, and over here we have Kiss coffins. We get you coming, and we get you going. That seemed to be his favorite joke.
And ashtray, if you want, and you die, there you go. Put him in the ashtray.
Exactly. Well, we could do that, but he actually sold a lot of caskets. I mean, a lot, like 100. But who would have expected that? And they were like $5,000 or something.
I saw one of a couple of his episodes, and he had like a whole vault of all of his merch. Like he had at least one of every single thing that he had his face on.
Wow.
It was amazing. And he had a lot of the show took place at his office. His office was as big as most people's houses. And he had it just filled with merchandise. There was, you guys wouldn't know who this is, but there was a famous director by the name of Blake Edwards. Blake Edwards did all the early Peter Sellers movies and just was a very, very famous movie director who was married to Julie Andrews, actually. And in his later years, he wanted us to work on reviving some of his movies. So Gene invited him over to his house, but he could barely walk. They had to bring him up there, and he had 2 crutches kind of thing that he was on. He was pretty old, but he still had all his marbles, as my mother used to say. And so Gene makes him go. Gene's house is gigantic because all the people in it. There's like only 5 rooms or something, but they're all gigantic rooms, and it's like 30,000 square feet. So he makes his way across the living room, and Gene goes, "Walk around, look at my merchandise." And this guy's one of the funniest guys ever, anyway. And he starts, and he's going, and you see he's struggling and struggling and struggling, and he turns around, and he looks at Gene and goes, "At this moment, I wish you were not quite as successful." Because the room was filled with everything, and Gene wanted him to see everything. So he was hoping that he was just saying, "Gene, you get it.
And Kiss had one of the coolest movies at the time. Like during '99, they made a movie about them that was called Detroit Rock City, and it was this whole road trip. A group of guys that wanted to go to a Kiss concert. There was this is like super cool. If you haven't seen this movie, you should actually watch it. There's one of the jokes is great because they're like going up on under their cars, and there's this girl walking on the sidewalk, and one of them goes, "We should not stop and give her a ride. This is how scary movies start." And the one who's driving looks at him and goes, yeah, but that's all. This is also how porn movies start. So we should definitely give her a ride. So, I mean, this movie is like great, like great cast, great movie, and the whole
What was the
story
name?
of Detroit Rock City. You got to
Okay.
see this movie. It's great, and the whole premise of them going to see Kiss is is great because you have that hippie versus rock metal bands vibe all like during the whole movie and the whole religious part. It's really yeah. No, Detroit Rock City. It's this one.
And there's a song by that name, which I think
Yeah,
that was, which
yeah.
is actually one of their. I was never a Kiss fan, but I went to enough concerts where the songs became very memorable to me. So I ended up a real Kiss. I went to like 50 concerts. In the end, I was going, to be quite honest, because I couldn't get out of it, and also because Kiss fans knew who I was. So I became like, I was famous if I went to a Kiss concert. I was mobbed by people wanting to take their picture with me.
They have like a big culture, big following. It's like a cult, almost like a big cult.
Well, it's called the Kiss Army, and
Exactly.
yeah,
Wow.
It's very
but
interesting. I mean,
but
and they get name dropped in every movie. Like in role models, they get name dropped. Like the Sean William Scott character was like completely obsessed with Kiss because they had Love Gun, and he like said to the little kid like, you see, this song was about his penis because the Love Gun is like it's like penis. I mean, the whole Kiss culture is like really crazy, but it's really fun. They have a good sense of humor. I think that's why they're so successful. Besides being a band,
they're a good band, and they were on a farewell tour, their second or third farewell tour. Like most bands,
and they're gonna do another one right after the pandemic because no, somebody needs to some cash.
No, they're yeah, it's look, it's an enterprise, and because I mean, I think there was five. The last I heard, there was 5 or 6 thousand different merchandise items. So Gene's attitude is you can make money while you're awake, but you can also make money while you're sleeping, and so that's why he was really pushing the merchandising business. And frankly, it was one of the most, only Disney had more. Well, I mean, other than things that were developed strictly for merchandising. It's gone on for years and years, years and years and years.
Had the same amount of merch that Power Rangers had. I'm not joking. I think that it was like almost the same thing. I think they even have like a Megazord out of like a Kiss Megazord. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I hope look at one of the things that we're trying to do with the mask, by the way, is to help the concert business come back. We also make chemicals that treat arenas and stuff like that because that's important. I think people are going kind of we'll see what happens with the places that are open and how much people are able to enjoy them and things like that. But I can tell you that
they're hungry for entertainment.
Yeah, here people, I'm sure it's the same in Puerto Rico. There's people are getting desperate here for money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more. I mean, maybe one of the reasons people are leaving in certain areas. I mean, this has never happened that we can think of in a long, long time. Beverly Hills, which has a police officer on every corner, somebody went into a Beverly Hills restaurant and started robbing people and ended up shooting one of them. And this never happened in Beverly Hills. It just never happens in Beverly Hills. So that means people are getting desperate. There was a gang of people stealing Rolexes, on Melrose Avenue, which is where you've been, one of the places you've been. So it's, hopefully this will be over soon.
Yeah, I think people need to come back to reality a little bit.
Yes, I need it.
And entertainment is a good source like to vent. So I think
for the mental health.
Yeah, mental health. Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. Like mental health, and especially now people are like watching crime dramas and crime documentaries. So I think pandemic has hit us a little bit hard.
Yep.
A little.
Only a little. But yeah, I'm actually really very interested to see where the industry moves because in hard times, people need to like think quick on their feet and change directions. And streaming has like filled a missing pothole but it's not the same thing. I miss going to the movies. I miss going to concerts. I still miss the whole
going
entertainment
out
business.
of the house.
Yeah. I've rarely gone even like. I think yesterday was the like one of the.
I know.
I'm trying to think in English, but like I have
Pero yo te
a barrier
entiendo.
block right now.
Yo te
I have
entiendo
like
lo
a
que estás
mental
diciendo.
brain fart. But I haven't gone out to eat like in a long time. Yesterday was one of the first times I went out. It was open space, so yeah, I'm like still playing it safe, getting tested a lot too. My nose is so like.
Well, good. Yeah, everybody's got to take care of themselves, and but I don't agree with what they're doing in Texas. I think that's kind of stupid, and
No,
to just put everything back. So somebody said, "Well, I guess you can't sell any masks in Texas," and I said, "Yeah, maybe." Maybe not for maybe not for 3 or 4 weeks, but as soon as people unfortunately start getting sick again, because it's inevitable, their vaccination rate is low. It's going to happen.
Only at the outskirts of Texas, because every governor has their own like COVID standards. So I still think that Dallas and a couple of places and Houston have still like the mandatory mask thing, and I don't think.
Well, I hope so. Not for my sake. We'll sell enough masks, but just for the people of Texas who are going through a lot already, and that was a political stand that he took because he's in so much trouble for people not having water and electricity for weeks. So I thought, well, we'll just open everything up. Then you can go get your water someplace else. I don't get it.
Yeah, but politics, I hate it.
Hey, I hate to be a party pooper. But,
no, I was actually about to call you off because we already hit the hour mark, so we're good to go.
Yeah, I most days I'd be fine with it, but I did make some commitments, and I wanted to do this, and I enjoyed it very much. It's really good.
It's our complete pleasure to have you
I
here.
didn't talk a lot because I'm English. Sorry.
You were fine. You were terrific.
But I understand everything. That's
well, good. See, but even if I understood Spanish, I can't talk as fast as you people can because you people talk real fast in Spanish, and I can't keep up with that.
Yeah, our Spanish is like real quick.
Yeah, but only in Puerto Rico. You go to Mexico, it's Buenos dias, and where you can in that time you could fucking do a whole book. So,
but if you go to Spain, there's a couple of areas in Spain that they speak even faster than we do.
Really? Okay.
Place in Spain that I go, can you slow down because I can't understand you?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Well, good. Now you know how I feel. Well, of course I can't understand anything. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Fonzo, I got to go, but this is private, but I'm going to call you later. You can help me figure out how to play those stuff.
No worry.
Fair enough.
Rich,
I'm not worried at all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being our friend.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And no, nothing. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll have you on because you still have like a ton of stories. This guy has so many stories, and we can have like 5 podcasts for like 8 hours. It's never ending story. So
yeah, it's I've got a story for everything. So it's hard to stop me. It's hard to keep me from stop talking. So anyway, thank you both. You've been terrific hosts, and I appreciate it.
I do my best.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Deuces.
Bye.
Bueno, mi gente, hasta aquí llegamos.
De verdad que me he botado hablando inglés aquí.
Pero estuviste. Es lo más importante que estuviste aquí.
Mi maestra de inglés tiene que estar súper proud.
¿Tú crees que ya te dio una estrellita de oro ahora mismo?
Aquí la tengo.
Ah.
La tengo aquí.
Ah, ok. Eso es lo importante. Que ya te
haya
dado...
Yo me boté y yo decía, Dios mío, papá Dios, ok, ahora di esto. Y yo, ay, ¡no!
A mí me pasa como quiera, me pasa que yo tengo como que...
Entonces abría la boca y de momento no me salía.
Y te frisa.
Yes.
Tienes un freno.
Yes. Se me fue todo el diccionario. Pero está bien. Fue mi primera entrevista en inglés, en otro idioma, así que yo estoy súper orgullosa.
Es la primera. Sí. Rompiste hielo y de ahí en adelante
Ni en una entrevista me habían hablado inglés así. Ni en una entrevista de trabajo, me cago en nada.
Mira
Pero
para allá.
estamos bien.
Pero nada, mi gente, los que se quedaron y los que van a ver esto después, gracias por ver el QueFonki'nShow. Show. Todos los domingos, same time, same place. La última vez tuvimos problemas técnicos, pero los hemos arreglado y les prometísticamente, que no van a ver más, que hopefully seguiremos progresando.
Pinky Promise. Y esto es serio.
Seguiremos progresando el whole production side de todo esto, que cada vez estamos mejorando, ¿ves? Como pueden ver,
Estamos duros.
nos vemos, estamos
Ya
mejorando.
tú eres casi técnico ahí.
¿Viste? Hoy estoy ponchando yo.
Poncha cámara 2. Poncha cámara 1.
¿Viste? Estamos en esa. Pero nada, mi gente, gracias un millón. Kiaritza, zúmbale, ¿dónde te pueden seguir?
Me pueden seguir por Kiaritza en Instagram, Kiaritza en Facebook, Kiaritza en todos lados.
A mí me pueden conseguir como Esfonso en Instagram, en Facebook Alfonso Rodríguez y obviamente aquí en Refresh Rate. Denle a subscribe, denle a la campanita, ting, ting. Estén pendientes a cada vez que vayamos a subir algo, vamos a seguir aquí. Obviamente aquí van a ver otros episodios de mental health, de gaming y demás. Refresh Rate sigue creciendo, ustedes nos van a ayudar, estoy bien seguro de eso. Así que quédense por el área ahí pendientes porque vienen proyectos nuevos.
Y cositas nuevas.
Eso es lo más importante. Kiaritza, ¿ya tienes tu closing o todavía?
Claro que sí. Y lo
Súmale.
pensé hace como 3 segundos porque esta es mi frase favorita.
Súmale.
You rock, you're the best, you're awesome.
Sácata. Mi
Ay,
gente,
qué
cuídense el
bello.
huevi. Valen 1000, nunca cambien X cerito. Deuces.